there's all the problems of food security which the previous speakers talked about. We look at kind of a rapid approach in moving technologies for application. There are inventions out there which are in the form of, number of intellectual assets. It could be patents out there. It could be a trade secret in terms of functionality of a gene. You don't have to file a patent, but you would have had an invention which provides exposure to the functionality of the gene. Or it could be an application of a product which is efficacy in particular context. So there are a number of areas where the research organizations across the world, both in public and private sector, keep generating new knowledge. But then that's one part of it. How do we converge these knowledge? Look at a transgenic crop. It's not one single technology that really constitutes a transgenic crop. It's a collection of technologies which actually contributes to one single crop. So if you do a patent deconstruct, what we call, to understand what has gone into making a product, there could be close to 20 or 25 technologies that are behind a transgenic crop. That's cumulatively contributed to developing this crop. Right? So that's where technology aggregation comes in to rapidly develop new products there. And we judiciously combine that by bringing public and private sector together. Because we look at globally, the gene patents, about a third of them rest with public research system, largely about 8 universities and about 15, 16 national public laboratories in Western world. And then close to 2/3 of the rest of the patents rest with the private sector. So the private sector also cannot move in many cases unless they get access to the balance 1/3 of protected technologies. It's the same with public sector research. So you need to really see situations where you need to combine both. So what do? We look at a whole lot of biomaterials and technologies. When you talk about biomaterials, there are genes of interest, there are a number of research tools, such as biomarkers, for example. And then you've got a whole lot of the cultivars, the germplasm, which are important for you to transfer technologies to right background. So there are a whole lot of biomaterials. And then there is a research infrastructure. There are upstream discovery-led research infrastructure, such as say SNP platforms, genomic discovery platforms. And then we've got downstream research infrastructure, which are more validating infrastructure at the phenotypic level. So I think we've got tremendous amount of research infrastructure which also needs to be combined. Human capacity in terms of interdisciplinary teams working together, plant molecular biologists, entomologists, pathologists. So these are human capacity which needs to converge together. Product validation ability. This is very important there, especially when it comes to biotechnology products. What's fit to be taken to markets is different from what you generate upstream level, right? You generate thousands of lines. So then you take a long time to select the right line and take it to the markets there. So a number of research tools have come which can really accelerate it, such as the tool of genomic selection, for example. So these are ones where again you converge technologies to rapidly select the right kind of biomaterial that can address the great needs of the industry there. This morning we talked about regulatory science. Valasarajan talked about complexity of that. It's a science very different from the product development itself. The regulators have a different perspective as compared to developers. So we need regulatory science knowledge and converge all those who have it. Then you have product delivery mechanisms. Right? How do we reach these technologies to farmers in a smart manner, in an affordable manner, in a manner where they see the value for it? So again, IT tools and all that, which we just saw in the earlier session. So I think you have to converge tremendous amount of resources, organizations, technologies, and platforms together for delivering a product there. Next. So what do we do? One is, when you talk about biomaterials, globally, almost 80% of the biomaterials are protected biomaterials. Right? A gene of interest gets patented, essentially for its functionality. Right? And once they're patented for functionality, then you need to really access it by licensing that particular gene for a specific use. Right? It's like an Intel chip in your computer. So Intel Inside means that the computer has an Intel chip, and that's licensed property of Intel that the computer maker has utilized. So if you're looking at a trait in rice such as drought tolerance, and if you have applied a gene that confers the trait in rice, the gene is owned by somebody. So you're licensing that gene for you to deploy it in your own cultivar typically. Right? So that's what is securing intellectual asset as a right for you. Right? You don't get access to intellectual asset for usage unless you license it. You still don't own the intellectual asset. The intellectual asset is still owned by the original owner, but you get access to the rights. It's like you're renting a house. You don't own the house, but you have right to stay in the house, right? So that's what happens then when you license a gene. You don't have ownership of the gene, but you have rights to deploy the gene in a responsible manner within the ambit of rights that are given to you there. So that's important there. Unlocking intellectual assets for responsible use. It's also true of research tools. It's also true of information packages that you get. If you get a whole bunch of, let's say, S&P data. Now these are protected data unless they're out in the public domain. So when you shrink wrap or click wrap those kind of data and download it, you're accepting certain terms and conditions there. Usually we don't read it, but it's important that those are unlocked for you to understand how can you responsibly deploy it. The second thing is, you've got these technologies, but you need to assimilate them in products, right? If you have a good gene of interest, you need to take it to a product with the right background. So that's where the assimilation part comes in. And then you have to make sure that these products are affordable to farm communities where they can, deploy it in a large acreage. So, in terms of, the players here, there are licensors, there are licensees, or there are aggregators of technologies where they're not protected technologies. Now there are resource banks make these technologies available. We got what we call as biobanks today. So these are, I think, key players today who are accelerating research as well as delivery efficiency in agricultural biotechnology today. Even in India today now, we are beginning to build these biobanks in terms of marker repositories, in terms of gene banks. So these are biobanks globally which help you to accelerate your biomedical access. So this is a case of a partnership I'm going to talk about here. In about 11 countries we work across with about 60 partners in developing about 11 products which are all transgenic traits today. We work with the virus-resistant products in Africa, where we bring together African, Asian, and American partners. We work with the disease-resistant crops. This is a potato project where we work with about 7 countries together. The whole goal is here to mitigate late blight in potato, and the whole technology originally has been developed with an American university, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Where they have gone around the world, looked at native potato lines that are resistant to late blight, and isolated a gene from that, and characterized it, and then deployed the gene in a number of potato lines across about 6-7 countries to see the resistance property in different environment there. And it's been successful. They've now licensed the gene through us to a number of partners here in India, to Indonesia, to Bangladesh and other major potato growing regions. Therefore, we got in India about 2 institutions, and globally about 7 institutions working together on developing the late blight resistant potato. In order to ensure durability, we also keep stacking more genes into these lines, so you can look at durable resistance for these products there. So there is also an RNA mediation there. Vengenza is again an offshoot entity of University of Florida, and they've licensed the RNAi construct to same partners again for them to stack it in their lead blight potato event there. So these are, I think, ones where we have about 7 countries which are testing this product. We pool the resources of these countries. the government, the private sector, and therefore it becomes kind of a large activity which can benefit a number of farmers in different countries. This is one of our proud projects where Tamil Nadu Agriculture University is a founding partner in it to develop the fruit and shoot borer resistance in brinjal. The original technology came from Monsanto and Mahiko. This is again an example that the private sector is still willing to provide technology to the public sector. And the gene construct, is quite a proven technology in cotton, and therefore it's taken across, the species here. What we've done here is typically to look at local varieties where the gene has been transferred through backcross breeding, and they are field tested, evaluated for its safety as a common safety package. It's been developed for 6 countries for them to gain advantage. And since we're investing in all single biosafety package, it's going to be extremely cost effective. Globally, about 22 varieties are developed. About 3 months ago, we released about 5 varieties in Bangladesh. It's already the farmer's field in Bangladesh. We expect that another 5 varieties will be released in Bangladesh pretty soon. In Philippines, all the evaluations have been carried out, and we expect that by April also, the farmers will receive seeds in the Philippines too. It's unfortunate that in India it's kind of put under moratorium, but we do hope that, since other countries are waking up, it's kind of given a wake-up call to India, so we do expect that, things will be different in India soon. So this again brings about 6 to 7 public researchers, private seed companies, all through interlock partnership program with responsible use of intellectual assets that have been provided to each of the partners there. So I talked about intel-inside principle. Now this is what is happening there. Typically speaking, upstream discovery level that are genomics driven are not necessarily widespread. When you look at high throughput screening, capability is limited to a few institutions globally, but they do provide a very, very large portfolio of genes today. So the gene pool is so large that one can really secure them, deploy it in your own research program there. Both the private sector and public sector globally are now converging those for you to make sure that you have accelerated opportunity to develop new traits and crops there. And number of target genes, such as say genes for drought and salinity, have not really got so much of relevance in the Western world. They're moving into countries like India, Bangladesh, Africa, Indonesia, crops like rice, crops like wheat in China, India. So these are, I think, opportunities. They're also moving into deployment in minor millets. So you can really look at a very region-specific crop to which these genes can be deployed. And similar research tools in terms of rapid selection tools, in terms of trait integration tools. I think there are tremendous opportunities where technology licensing provides potential. So basically, in many cases we find that some of these are constrained beyond the point of proof of concept to carry out in the public research system. As Valsraj talked about, the private sector has a much larger infrastructure when it comes to translational research, and therefore, at the right time, they also move into the private sector as a partnership program for them to rapidly validate these technologies on form. And this is a way where we bridge the gap and to make sure that products reach the farmers rapidly by bringing the private sector at the right time. If you look at biomedical research, this has been happening for almost like 3 decades today. All the candidate products that are in the biomedical research move into private sector for rapid validation, where the public sector provides the upstream scientific, and technological expertise, but the private sector carries much more rapidly the process for validation, so they can really take the products through validation stage much faster. So in the process, we also converge tremendous amount of people together. The great strength of public sector is that they bring in substantial interdisciplinary talent there. Every discipline, you go to university like Cornell or TNAU, you got faculty resource for every discipline, you got student capability for every discipline. which is what actually private sector lacks. Even the large companies in the world, such as Monsanto and Pioneers, do rely a lot on public researchers for bringing interdisciplinary talent. The whole lot of bioinformatics capability, the whole lot of the genomics-driven selection capability, the whole lot of inventions in combining biotechnology to nanosciences. So these are, I think, companies like Affymetrix work with experts like Susan McCush today to see how they can create faster chips for advanced selection processes in a crop like rice today. So I think there is a tremendous amount of intellectual assets in human mind in public research institutions, and that's what private sector comes and really works together to make sure that next generation technologies are applied in products. So typically the public sector generates the next generation knowledge, but then the validation is always done through private sector. That's where these kind of partnerships come together. The big challenge in biotech products is the safety assessment of crops. So if you look at the investment in a whole lot of biotech product, about 15 to 20% goes in product development itself. That's again because you develop a number of products, and then you junk several of them, and then you only pursue some of the products for safety assessment. But close to about half the cost, 50% of the cost, goes in safety assessment of the product. The number of elements of safety assessment for a genetically modified crop. When it comes to that, the private sector substantially takes a third-party service for making these safety assessments, be it for toxicology studies, or be it for allergenicity studies, or be it for validating the molecular characteristics. So all of them would require extensive investment, and that's where the private sector comes in at that point of time. So today you don't have any publicly released transgenic plant in the world other than papaya, which was developed by Cornell University. The second publicly released transgenic crop in the world is wheat eggplant that Bali has brought out just about 3 months ago. Otherwise, all the products come to markets from the private system there. So it's not easy for an entity by itself to carry out safety assessment. So what we do is that we develop a common safety package for the gene of interest, and then once the event is assessed for safety, we do carry out transfer of that event to a number of countries for them to integrate that into their own cultivars there through backcross breeding program. And they may generate a number of products for various regions of the world. In the process, we invest in one safety package, and that has all the rigor of a great safety assessment, complying with OECD protocols there. And that's actually investment that's driven by a combined investment pool, because it costs systematically, a good safety assessment would cost you close to about, in Indian context, about 22 crores or so. So to deploy that kind of investment for a single product, but in the US context, it almost costs close to 150 crores. In Indian context, it's close to about 1/6 of that, on account of cost advantages we have here. But then even the 20 crore gets pooled with the public and private sector investing in it. So today in the country, we have close to about, my assessment, about 50 events that are ready to be validated, both in the public and private system. And these are what we call as candidates. So if you talk about 20 crore per candidate into 50 candidates, you're talking about 1,000 crore investments that just needed only to assess the safety of these products in the development. That's not going to come from one institution or one company. So it needs to be pooled investment for that to happen that way. And then these 50 could eventually turn out to be 10 or 15 products in the markets there, because the success rate of these products going through safety assessment is again fairly low, many times 1 out of 4 or so. So you're talking about potentially 10 to 12 products coming out of the current portfolio of research that's ongoing in the country there. We do see that in potato, this is again a product that's pretty advanced in terms of delivery. We expect that the first country to release lead blight resistant potato, this will be the first one in the world, because there's no transgenic solution currently for lead blight. Lead blight is a big menace in potato, the Irish famine case, you all know about it. So the Indonesia will be the first one to release it, hopefully by middle of next year. Following that, we expect that India, Bangladesh and other countries will release potato. But this is pretty much an advanced stage of development today. Yeah, next. So I talked about resources, basically. The big resource is so much in the regulatory stage and reach to market stage. I think that's where 60% of the resources are needed. Predominantly, we expect that when the private sector steps in there, eventually they understand the markets better than the public system, so they take responsibility to take the products to the markets there. Product dissemination mechanisms are very critical because this morning we talked about the hybrids and varieties, essentially, maintaining its equilibrium in markets there. Many times people say that, look, hybrids are going to overtake variety. In crop like wheat, we don't see that happen because the pace of breeding excellence in varieties are very difficult to keep pace even for hybrid developers today. So when you look at incremental yield of 4 to 5% a year, in a 5-year horizon, it's going to be very, very difficult for somebody working on wheat hybrids to match that kind of efficiency today. So it's always a dilemma. What will happen to the hybrid developers there? So there are certain crops which will still be dominated by varieties. When in US, most of the oil crop seeds are dominated by varieties today. The reason is the high efficiency in the breeding that's happening today on account of the bioinformatic tools, the genomic-driven breeding programs today. Therefore, we would certainly continue to invest both in set of varieties that will be driving market dominance as well as hybrids there. When it comes to vegetables, it will predominantly hybrids, which are going to be our focus area. While in certain vegetables, small acreage crops will continue to drive varieties as our crop of interest there. So I think it's going to be equal focus for us for quite some time. This is the kind of a conventional partnerships we used to have earlier, public research investments. Go into public research institutions, typically something like the Department of Biotechnology and ICAR would invest in public research institutions, and then they develop technology, transfer it to the private sector validates it and takes it to markets there. So we kind of converged all and while conceiving the project itself, the hypothesis developed by bringing public and private sector together, they partner right at that point of time, because when you talk about technologies here, we pool it both from public and private system. Therefore, it is essential to bring both together. Then we also pool investments from both. That's what gives us a larger kitty of money for us to go into upstream research and look at product development capability there. So predominantly our projects look at public and private investment combined, with a clear understanding of markets that are combinedly contributed. Again, as I said, the private sector is very close to the markets. They are day-to-day in touch with the markets. They bring in tremendous amount of knowledge about the markets. The farmers' preferences, the farmers' pain points, what are the suffering the farmers got, what are the market preferences, what are the market pain points. So these are very important for us as we invest in a new trade development. It's almost an 8 to 10 year long investment there. You don't want to learn at the end of 6 or 7 years, this is not the target we should work. We should be working on some other target. Right? So you need a very strong understanding of market needs and the forecasting ability on what are the traits that we determined are needed 8 to 10 years from now. And then you put your money into developing those kind of trait-focused products there. So it's a tremendous amount of upstream research that goes into understand pain points and then converge related traits which are essential for you to develop. And based on that, look for genes of interest that can potentially provide those advantages for the kind of traits you're looking at, converge those technologies, bring in research institutions that can work on the products together. So there's a long run process there. So upstream engagement of public and private sector is understanding clearly in what kind of pain points we should look at when it comes to the large acreage crops, what kind of pain points we should look at when it comes to small acreage crops, and then accordingly look at targets for technology development. I talked about it that we really deployed tremendous amount of interdisciplinary trained with talent across the world in the public research system. The advantage we have is that I bring some expertise from US universities, some expertise from Indian universities, some expertise from Europe. So we converge kind of global expertise that's available, and that's what provides us a big advantage in bringing kind of the best practice in product development. We do converge a lot of the public sector goals. Certainly economic growth is a common goal, and many times people say, look, they have very divergent goals, which I don't agree at all, because everybody looks at eventually providing a solution to the farmer there. And if you can make it affordable, it's a sustainable product. When you don't make it affordable, it's not a sustainable product. So I think we do look at institutional technology driven by certain policy, where eventually the goal is to support the farmer with the affordable product. The private sector certainly looks at return on investment, which to us is very important there, but the return on investment is inbuilt in a good product as such. So when you make a successful good product, the return on investment is automatically there. Farmer looks at potential value and affordability from the angle of what advantage the seed provides to them. So the important aspects of the intellectual convergence is actually a complex process today, which needs to be made easier for people to understand and operate. So that's one element which I think in India especially, my own organization has been deeply involved in creating the capacity, in working with the institutions to converge it. When you look at the transfer of technologies, transfer of biomaterials, today in I would say between 15, 16 countries where predominantly transfer of biomaterials take place in agricultural research, we're doing thousands of transactions every day, right? If you look at the marker transfers, you look at biomaterial transfers, you look at transfers from gene banks, the vector construct banks, we're talking about thousands of transactions happening every day. It's more like what you download as a software tool or a package for you, or it's more like what you download as an application, an app in your mobile phone. So these are now made into very structured, systematic transactions there. Now India has not been predominantly engaged in this world earlier, but today, the last 5 years, we've been educating institutions to get into that, be a part of the global bio pool. So you can contribute to that as well as you can receive biomaterials from there. But these are very different from applications in IT, because these are governed by certain regulatory restrictions. There is a whole lot of fear of bioterrorism. There's a biosafety angle to that, and therefore applying regulatory science. How do you move biomaterials responsibly in and out of your institution? How do you move biomaterials responsibly in and out of your country itself? So there's an institutional responsibility, there's an overall country responsibility, right? So these are important elements which we need to abide by when it comes to pooling biomaterials as compared to pooling other technologies there. So I think tremendous amount of regulatory compliance comes in there, understanding risk in movement of biomaterials physically comes in there. A lot of it is today transferred to our data. Again, the data security comes in there. So those are the elements which are important here. Now, eventually a product that we develop needs also to be protected. It could be in the form of a patent, it could be in the form of trade secret, because eventually you need a responsible system for these products delivered to the farmers. So when you patent a product, doesn't mean you're denying the product to community at large. You are providing more access to the product to community at large because you take ownership of that. Right? So how do we, when you develop a good product in the end, how do you deliver responsibly through protection of those products there? It could be plant variety protection. India has now put in a good system of plant variety protection. So the cultivar that's double act could be an essentially derived variety, or it could be a new trait altogether. So protecting through plant variety, protecting the functionality of the gene through patenting. So these are some of the elements which I think one needs to look at after a product is developed in order to make sure that it's responsibly deployed in the market. Now, I talked about this whole thing, a kind of an innovation transfer, because the world is moving so fast. Look at the genes of interest, what's been patented about 10 years ago are no relevant today. What are single gene traits today are no more relevant because you've got multiple strands that are coming in. So your innovation piece is so strong, you need to keep on piling up these technologies. And therefore, successful environment, requires that you do technology scouting all the time. Companies like Pioneer, companies like Syngenta, they have what they call as technology scouts, right? They look at what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow, who is developing what technology. And that's what is happening in the world. Even universities like Cornell, we are swamped by the way technology is coming into kind of application existence today. So the technology scouting becomes very critical, even for public institutions, to make sure that we have complementary technologies which we can deploy in our research program. And there are a number of ways in which we leverage it, create consortiums, say for example seed industry consortium which helps you to pool those technologies, create public research consortiums, create intra-country research consortiums, and these are certainly methodologies by which you've been able to understand at least what's happening elsewhere and then secure those technologies. There are, of course, critical elements of cross-country partnerships. As I said, working in a cross-country partnership mode in life sciences is complicated because we are actually moving, live organisms across territories, and they're bound by, several legal impediments, several cultural impediments there. So you need to be careful about it. So we need to comply with the policy regulations. In India, of course, there is the Department of Biotechnology, this Ministry of Environment, and additionally, of course, there are a number of cross-currents, such as the Biodiversity Acts, etc. So for you to comply with all of them, it's very critical there. There are geopolitical relationships. India says you can't transfer biomaterial to certain countries because there are threats of bioterrorism in those countries. US says you cannot transfer biomaterial from me to certain countries there, because we do suspect that these will be not responsibly deployed. So you have to follow them. You cannot, break rules. Territorial definitions and agreements. Again, there are limitations on, territorial transfer of certain technologies there. You need to follow them. Biodiversity Convention. The CBD is a very complicated convention. It many times walks into another's territory, but then you have to make sure that CBD convention is followed, because CBD is really a facilitated mechanism, but some of the countries have made their own acts under the CBD as a very draconian act, so you have to make sure that you comply. And then there are whole international liability issues. Rajat talked about stewardship responsibility, which are actually relating to liability. So I think there are tremendous amount of interdisciplinary approaches that are needed for partners to converge their talent, but within the ambit of all these restrictions, we need to do that. So what do we do as technology managers? The first thing is protecting intellectual assets. Tremendous amount of assets get created every day. How do you protect it? How do you responsibly deploy it? How do you give value to that? That's the first element of that. And then there is a whole lot of convergence of resources. The faculty engagement, student engagement, and then the industry engagement. The student engagement with the university, the student engagement at the industry location, the university research in the university research at the industry location, industry research in industry research in the university location, university and industry working together at the third-party location. So these are complex elements when it comes to pursuing collaborative research. So you need to be very careful about what determines whose ownership in all this. And you need to be making sure that you spell out those kind of rights, obligations and liabilities of these involved partners. So you have responsible product delivery possible from that. Right? So these are, I think, important elements where most institutions don't have a policy on how do we handle them. But there are practices which are healthy practices, so you need to adopt them. Make sure that the intellectual assets are brought to the fore, deployed, not denied, primarily to those who need it. When it comes to kind of policy, you also make sure that there's no conflict of interest. Conflict of interest policy is very important there. When you bring partnerships, you have to make sure that there are no conflicts. And then there are what we call as benefit sharing. When you have successful products coming into the markets, then there are certain advantages to co-developers, which we call as benefit sharing. In terms of royalty flow back, when Tamil Nadu University itself has licensed genes to industry. We are one of the pioneers in that. We have Dr. Vijay here who is invented itself. So you have the benefit flow that comes back to university. So how do we determine that? What kind of rights the university will have? What kind of obligation the university will have? Are you responsible if the product fails in the market? What kind of indemnification that you will see for you to make sure that the private sector delivers, you're not brought to a legal obligation there. So these are important things. So what we call as licensing of technology also has certain responsible licensing methodology for you to follow. And then you need to protect yourself to make sure that product delivery partners do not harm their own position there. So those are, I think, important there. And then how do you get the benefit of the technology over a period of time? When you take a crop like cotton, we have Dr. Ramaswamy from Rasi Seeds, who is the biggest successful executive technology in the country in cotton. But then the technology came to him from some other source. So there is a certain amount of compensations that you make the technology provider in a manner that's well laid out earlier. So those are contractual obligations. So normally when you look at life science products, you've got certain milestone payments. When you look at, let's say, a particular trait that's developed in Tamil Nadu University being validated in a crop, let's say a drought tolerance trait, you try to validate in a rice crop. So there could be 3 or 4 critical milestones for you. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, call it right. So it could be at the point of selection of the right kind of line, and therefore look at well-characterized event, which is the first kind of milestone, then validate the event for its safety, then validate the event for economical performance, and then eventually release it to the farmer there. So there are several milestones. So each of the milestones we attract certain return to the inventor there. So these are, I think, predetermined. And when you license technologies, they are essential parts of these arrangements between licensor and licensee. That's